3, 2, 1.
And it's live.
This is Leicester Till I Die TV. Watch and subscribe on YouTube and listen on your podcast platform.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good night, good day, goodbye, hello. Wherever you are in the world, one of those will apply to you. And wherever you are in the world, it couldn't be nicer than it is at the moment. The sun is shining. The beers are running. We've appointed a new manager. We've spent 30 odd million on new players. We've got, young. Oh, sorry. Hang on. That was a few years ago, wasn't it? Sorry for a moment there. I've just seen Phil, my guest. He's gone, new manager? What's gone on? I've put there, should we go back to the future? And so should we go back to those times and what we did that was right and do it again in the future? Because at the moment, everything is going wrong. Look, I've got a great guest with me this evening. He's made me feel extremely young and vibrant. There's no better way for a guest to start than knocking 10 years off your age, is there? Thank him for that. Join in with the chat. If you are watching live on YouTube, please join in with the chat, and we'll include some of those as we go through the show. If you're watching it on catch-up, add your comments below. It really makes us interested. We want to see what people think. And if you're listening via your favourite podcast platform, thank you very much. We got Phil from Leicester Fan TV joining us. Let's get him in. Phil, good evening, sir. How the devil are you?
I'm good, Chris. I'm good. I always thought you're about my age, Chris, when I've been watching you for years. I thought he's about my age. He's about 40, the same age as me. That's what I thought, Chris.
Oh, I wish.
Me too.
Yeah, if we could go back to those days. But it is a great way to start when you make the host feel so much younger. Thank you very much. Ray has said, don't do shows when you're sus, Chris. Patrick, hello. I was scratching my head to what you were on about. Got worried about you for a bit. And James says the silence is deafening. Fans being treated like mugs. As I always say, we're like mushrooms, aren't we, Phil? Kept in the dark and fed on shit.
Well, Chris, you just had me going there. When you were doing your introductions and you said, we've got a new manager, we spent 30 million. I was like, oh my God, I've not looked at my phone in the last half hour. What's happened? Yeah. But no, it's same old, same old.
It is. But look, that's what you get supporting Leicester, isn't it? We love the club to bits. We wouldn't have it, you can divorce your wife. Your kids, can you send them off to university? But you can't support another team, can you? You're stuck with it for life.
I think you're right, Chris. That's it. The thing that lots of I'm not sure fans particularly think about it sometimes, but I say it every now and then. Is like people like me, Chris, and you, Chris, and people who are watching this. We wear this badge. Probably we don't choose that. It's what we are. I mean. Whereas players have to choose to come to Leicester and they have to weigh it up and think, is it a good career move? Managers are saying, even the owners. But we did this. This is just us, come what may, for many, many years, forever. And that's something I think fans have to think about sometimes, is that it is our club, and there's some of that where I think a lot of fans over the last maybe year or 2 years are going, I'd like our club back. Feels like we've lost it a bit.
I agree, although in fairness, I did say that if we do appoint Gary O'Neill, I'm going to start supporting Nottingham Forest.
Well, I quite like Gary O'Neill. I thought he's okay-ish, isn't he? Did okay at Wolves, didn't he?
Anyway, it's been nice having you, Phil. Thank you very much for joining us. Goodbye. No, I mean, I live down obviously just outside Bournemouth, so I remember him as a Bournemouth manager. And my mate on who comes on here, Craig, absolutely loved him. And I actually predicted Wolves to finish bottom because of Gary O'Neill. I think he's one of those that was a decent number 2. He took over obviously from Scott Parker, but no, I don't want him anywhere near. I mean, look how well. All right, they had a bit of a peak after this acting, but I just think he would have taken Wolves down this season.
Maybe. I mean, I know a Wolves fan quite well, and he said to me, he said, Wolves opening 10, 12 fixtures this season were tough. And I think if you look back, and he also said they've got 3 or 4 reasonably long-term injuries where they'll come back in around game 14, 15, 16. And he said he wasn't worried. He said, we'll pick up. He said, we are going to have a stinky start and we'll pick up. I thought Gary O'Neill was okay at Wolves. I thought he did quite well at Bournemouth. Listen, I'm not there saying he's top of my list, but
No.
I didn't realise you didn't like him that much.
No, I don't. No, he's somewhere between Sean Dyche and Wayne Rooney on my list.
Well, it sounds like you're not even a Sean Dyche fan then, Chris, either.
No, I'm going to say, right, and obviously people have different opinions about the manager. Look, moving forward, it looks like Rude's going to go. You don't let your assistant manager go.
No.
This is Leicester. I mean, he's gone to Cardiff. He had no loyalty to Ruud van Nistelrooy. He was just brought in this season. And fair play to him. Like you say, there isn't any loyalty. He's not a Leicester fan or he's not, born and bred here.
Yeah.
But, do we go for the same sort of style manager as Ruud and Pep? Or do we go for a manager that will, like a Sean Dyche, that will probably get us up in next season or the season after, possibly keep us up, and then move on from that point? Which of those 2 options do you think is better?
Well, I think it is a really interesting debate, Chris, because I had exactly this debate in my office today with a Leicester fan who's in his mid-20s and sees it from a different view from me. I kind of see it that I think I see a 2-year plan for Leicester in my books, which is definitely try to get up first time again if we can. And then year two is the same as what I felt it was this year that we didn't do, which is somehow just not get relegated. Because that's all I wanted this season was year one when you get in the Premier League is you just have to stay up. It's what happened in 2013, 14, 15 in those great escape years, and that we just managed to stay up. And then we built on that. Admittedly, we built really quickly then, but that to me is a 2-year plan: is get up, stay up, and then probably reset again. That 3rd year, if you'd stayed up, that manager probably then isn't good enough to push you back up the middle of the table and higher. So I don't see why we can't work like that. So I know the Enzo plan was like 4 or 5 years, which was great. Get back up, but then it didn't happen because he left us. Yes. So it's difficult.
Yeah. It is. And look, none of us have got the answer. You get 5 people in the room and they'll all come up with 5 different options. But I just feel, from the players' point of view, I looked at it so many times when I was watching the matches last season, and the players themselves didn't seem to know what was going on. They were passing to people that weren't there, they're passing out. And, I did wonder, is it because Enzo played a certain way? Steve Cooper came in, who had us playing a completely different style after a year of Enzo, banging it into the players. This is how you play. Then Ruud came in and almost changed it back again. And it's like, they probably didn't know if they were coming or going. So what do we do? Do we, say, I know what you're saying about, yes, that for me, if we are going to go up, then it's all about staying up. And I thought Steve Cooper might have done that. I thought if he stayed a bit longer, but who knows? We'll never know. But I look at Leeds this season, and I think Leeds, I know again they're already one of the three favourites to go down with Burnley and Sunderland, but I think Leeds have probably got a better, out of the 6 teams from the last 2 seasons that got promoted, I think Leeds have got the better chance to stay up because they had that second season, in the Championship.
Yes, they may have come back a little bit stronger. Elland Road is always a big help if Leeds can get a bit of momentum going there. Those 40,000 Leeds fan, it's a proper Premier League club. Leeds, Leicester fans might not like to hear it, but Leeds United is one of those clubs that really should be a Premier League side. And I think, like you say, if they can get it right off the pitch a little bit, on the pitch, the fans just desperate for any sort of, again, from their point of view, Chris, what was it, 92, 93? They won. It was the old First Division, but the last year before the Premier League, they played in Europe. They're a big club. So I I don't like Leeds, but they might go on and do all right this season for sure. They maybe that extra season did them good, but I don't want us to have 2 seasons in the Championship because I kind of fear what would happen if we did that. But Leeds have just shown it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. You do want to get back up financially as soon as you can. I think it all depends on those 3 little letters, PSR. That we'll see. But talking about, I think what we would agree on is whoever is the next manager, it's probably the most important appointment that this club will have made in a lot, because they've got to get it right this time, haven't they?
It'll be the most important manager's appointment this month. I mean, we've done how many managers, Chris, have we done in the last 2 years?
Yeah.
I know what you mean. I think, and I do understand it. And I think if you ask fans, that I don't know exactly the split. It might be 50-50, 60-40, one way or the other. But there is a big portion of fans who like the Enzo way and think this is how football should be played and that. And I understand that. It's nice possession football to a level. I spoke with somebody else today. Just bumped into them and we started.
Do you do any work or do you just talk football all day?
Well, mostly football. But this guy said to me, he said, I've let the season ticket go. He says, I'm just done with Pep style football, Enzo style football, modern day football. So there is an anti sort of like that where you go, let's get the ball back in the box a little bit more. Let's get exciting football. So I think people are split. And as you said, you started the question, is this the most important one? It probably is. But again, I don't see it necessarily being a 5-year plan like Enzo was. I just feel like maybe we look a bit shorter term just to get us through the next bit, the next phase, because you've titled this Back to the Future. I kind of feel that's what happened back in 2011, 12, 13. We kind of just, let's deal with this next little bit. And then if we have success, we'll build on top of that rather than a big plan.
Yes, yeah. Well, very quickly, just to sort of look at a couple of options that may have sort of popped up this week as a manager. I mean, one of them, Danny, I can't say his name. Dan, my mind's gone blank.
Sheffield Wednesday manager. That's who you're on about.
That's the one I'm on about.
I'm going to tell you his name, but I have to read it. It's like Danny Roll. Danny Roll.
Yeah, I wanted to say Stroll for some reason, but there we go. Danny Roll. Now, they've just been hit with a 3-window transfer ban because they've not paid the wages. Milan Mandrić is talking about going back in and buying it and to try and save it, etc. But they've obviously, that's not going to happen straight away, especially with their owner. Is this something that if you are Danny Roll, and I don't know if you're a Danny Roll fan or not, but obviously it's one of the more popular ones that fans want. But he's looking at that thinking, bloody hell, 3 windows, I can't bring any players in. Is that going to speed his exit from Hillsborough up?
Yeah, plus I think it's bound to. Any manager's going to sit there and go, well, it's like I've had, part of my tools taken away because I can't buy or bring play. And 3 windows is a summer, a January, a summer. It's like, it's almost a kiss of death, isn't it? It's almost like other teams have had to do. You almost need to put some sort of like interim in and just say, look, if we can survive this year, then we're going to survive. But am I a big fan of his? Not particularly big fan. I'd like to say, Chris, I'll happily back whatever manager's in charge of
Yeah,
Leicester.
you've got to give them a chance, haven't you?
Even Rude, if we just stick with Rude, I'll still give him 10 games and before I'm really moaning at him. But
yeah,
this guy, I don't know too much about him, but I am told he's had a lot of good number 2 roles. He's done well in Europe. I think has he won the Champions League as a number 2? He's, I believe,
not sure.
Quite well respected within the game, and he's a young manager, so he kind of fits that Enzo type of, and he likes to play possession football. But I'm a bit bored of possession football, Chris. So I'm not dancing around here for.
Well, we'll come on to possession football in a second. There's rumours, obviously, that he wants to go back to Germany as well. But an extra manager that's come onto the scene suddenly because he was sacked this week, Chris Wilder. Now, is he the sort of manager you'd like? Does he fit into your short-term thinking, as in, yeah, he would get us up, and then B, he may well keep us up?
Well, some Leicester fans will straight away go, why do you want a manager who couldn't get Sheffield United promoted? And he's a Sheffield lad through and through, been a ball boy, done everything there, and they've sacked him. So why do you want him? But the counter-argument to that, Chris, is the guy's done really well at Sheffield United over the years, got them promoted, is it twice?
Yeah.
Had quite a good run with them in the Premier League as well, obviously got relegated. So as a short-term manager, he knows his stuff. He knows how to manage players and a club. I've always thought he looks no nonsense, Chris, which I am very ready for somebody to be.
Oh, God, yes.
Because it feels like a lot of nonsense going on at Seagrave over the last year or so. So, yes, I don't know. I hadn't really considered him. But for me, Chris, I don't know what you think, but
well, I can say
lot of reasons to have him.
He fits into that short-term fix that you were saying. And that's how I saw Steve Cooper. Because I thought,
I agree.
I thought he'd keep us up this season. Then next season he might get us 15th, something like that, and then you move on to the next manager. So I think whether it, obviously not Steve Cooper, but I think Chris Wilder could do that. I mean, obviously normally we give out a 3-year contract. I mean, why we don't do rolling contracts, I don't know, but we give out a 3-year contract. But even if it's 3 years, like I say, it's got to be that short term. And even, I've got to say, and I know everyone's going to give me hate on me for this, but even if it is Sean Dyche, do we want to get back into the Premier League? Yes. Do we want to stay in the Premier League? Yes. Sean Dyche would possibly do both of those things. He kept Everton up, even with the points deduction. Absolutely stuffed us earlier in the season. So I wouldn't be totally against Chris Wilder, to be honest with you. But and coming back to the possession that you were saying, the possession-based football, and I have called this "Go Back to the Future." Do we need to go back to the Claudio Ranieri counter-attacking sort of style? And that's what everybody's. We won the Premier League with it, but. I had Julian Watts on. I don't know if you remember Julian Watts.
Yes, of course, yeah, great player.
And he's he's an assistant manager, and he said it's like 11th tier or something. But he absolutely loves Pep style football. And I'm like, why? This playing out from the back and losing it in the penalty box and conceding a goal, booted upfield, and if you lose it when you get it upfield, at least it's in their half, etc. I don't get this. I mean, well, Pep didn't do very well with it this year, did he? Do we need to change the style away from this possession-based football?
Well, possession-based Pep-style football works, and it works at its best when you're one of the best teams who've got it. So Man City didn't have the best team this year, and they couldn't fulfill it quite as much. I think last year under Enzo, we clearly had one of the best squads ever in the Championship, not just last year, ever, financially. And therefore, we executed it really well. I think Enzo Ball would have struggled for Leicester this year in the Premier League. We'll never know.
Yeah.
But next year, I guess my question mark is, because we don't know who's exactly staying at the club and who's going, is we probably still have got one of the best squads in the Championship next year, and again, a really strong one. Financially, certainly we will have. It depends who stays and goes. So next year, probably playing a bit possession-based football kind of makes sense because we should be able to execute it with the players we've got. So rather than go toe-to-toe with teams like Millwall and that who want to battle it. We struggled against those teams under Enzo, the Millwalls and Plymouths who had a go at us. But generally, if we play possession-based football next season, I see a value to that. What I don't see, and this was what I had an argument today with somebody, is when we get to the Premier League, Chris, for God's sake, learn your lesson. Don't go back trying to play possession-based football again. Not in year one, because you just get whooped. So, I kind of see why we could play it next year. Personally, it doesn't get me out of the seat as a fan.
Yeah. It's a double-edged sword. But look, remember when we were 17 points clear at the top of the championship? Oh, the good old days. And people were then moaning about, possession-based football. I'm thinking, we're 17 points clear at the top. What the hell are you complaining about? I don't think Enzo would have kept us up this season playing that possession-based football.
No,
look at Southampton, We don't know if Steve Cooper would have done, but we're back in the championship, so it may do. I did a thing recently, and do you know, since King Power took over, the average length of a manager staying at the club is 16 months.
Yeah,
I mean that's Watford territory, isn't it?
Yeah, I could probably, Chris, if I went back to the mid-70s to the 90s, I could probably list you the managers in the right order and say, Gordon Milne was 3 years from 84. I could probably do it. I probably couldn't list you the managers from 2000 to where we are now, 2010, like you say, the King Power era, in the right order, because there'd be a couple that go, I forgot about Gary Megson, I forgot about Paulo Sousa, I forgot, Claude Puel, he was there 2.5, 3 years. I forgot we had him. Let alone the past 2 years. So, it does feel like they have hired and fired a little bit more than we think.
And I don't think it works. I'm all right. You could, if you're a Chelsea fan, you could argue and say, well, every time we change a manager, we win something. But generally speaking, changing a manager doesn't really. Well, look at Watford. How often did changing a manager keep them up? It never did. Prashant said there, you'll just go Red Devil United. Hi, Rich. How you doing, mate? Do you still want Ndidi? Give us 9 million. We'll take it. Carrick is a solid option. I mean, again, he is, but he didn't get Middlesbrough promoted, did he? Middlesbrough have never had the success of Leicester, but they're not. Basically, they're almost a sister club in size, aren't they? The stadium's the same size. They're a one club city. The Middlesbrough fans are as passionate as Leicester fans. It's kind of the same sort of thing. We've definitely had more success, but he couldn't quite get them up over that line, could he? And he was there for several years. He was quite fancied at one point to go on and take a Premier League job, and we were rumoured for him, I think, at least once or twice. I don't know. He's been schooled the right way at Man United, obviously, but it hasn't happened at Middlesbrough. So you kind of think he's going to have to go a little bit lower than coming to Leicester to re-establish his value, I guess. Do the club have to have basically... they have to have the belief in whoever they take on. Whoever it is, like you say, whoever it is, even if we are keeping Rude, as much as I do not want that to happen, if it is, let's give him the chance. Because it's been toxic. I mean, I don't go down to the ground because obviously, let's say, I live on the south coast, and I gave my season ticket up after the Great Escape. That was a good plan, wasn't it? Yeah, exactly, mate. It's a toxic place, isn't it? The King Power.
It can be, and it obviously can be an amazing place at the same time. I think the last probably 2 years, probably since Brendan Rodgers overstayed what many fans felt was his time, and then obviously it went into Dean Smith, and then it spiraled, and even Enzo. It feels like from that period, maybe 2.5 years, the fan base has got a little bit divided. And again, there's this style of football. There's this, who do you want managing it? Some fans, I've never really known Leicester where fans were demanding a manager be sacked after 10 or 11 games where we weren't in the bottom three. Still don't understand that. So, and yet they're lucky at me. I've again had an argument today, a debate, all today, Chris, no work.
I'm going to say, can I come and work for you, please?
Somebody said to me, if they give it to Sean Dyche, I want him gone. I'll give him 5 games. And I was like, but I don't want it to be Rude staying, but I would still give him 10 or 15 games to have a go. And that's, we know Rude's rubbish. If it was Chris Wilder coming in, I'm never going to sit there and say I'll give him 5 or 10 games. But there are definitely fans out there who are like, yeah, I don't want Sean Dyche, so I hope he fails and I hope he's gone within 10 games. And I don't understand that mentality. But that's part of the divide, Chris, at the moment.
Yeah, no, I agree. But it's like somebody saying, you know, if Gary O'Neill joins, I'm going to go and support Nottingham Forest. I mean, who would say that? You
really did at the start.
I know. But look, I say it in jest. And whoever you get in, you've got to give them a chance. And that's where I'm thinking the board need to grow a pair. And I think the board gave in to the fans with Steve Cooper. Because, like you say, we weren't in the relegation zone. We got almost as many points under him as we did under Rude. So if you take somebody on, whether it's Gary O'Neill, Sean Dyche, Danny Roll, you know, Jose Mourinho, whoever it is, you've got to give them time. And if it starts to go wrong straight away, you haven't got to panic, have you?
For me, the only manager who wouldn't be given much time is Ruud van Nistelrooy.
Oh, yes.
Because I think we've seen what he can do in the Premier League. If he carries on, he would have to have a flying start for me. But any other manager, I'm kind of like, good grief, I feel ridiculous, Chris, saying you've got to give him until at least Christmas. But you kind of at least got to give somebody that long to try and see where they're at. I mean, and then take it from there. But again, a lot of this comes down to perhaps the club. I know they're not very good at they've never communicated. When we win the league, they don't come out and say much. When we win the FA Cup, they don't come out. So they're consistent. But I kind of feel like now that surely they can hear fans' voices and opinions. And I think it wouldn't be hard from a marketing and PR point of view, Chris, for somebody from the club to say, right, look, here, it's only a page of A4 that kind of sets out what the vision is. And maybe they'll do that if we change managers, but just a bit of a vision. And then we go, right, calm down, everybody, and just let's all buy into this. This is what they want to do. Let's give it a chance.
Yeah, if they come out and look, you run a company. You know, I've been a manager, and if you come out when things start, you can sense that things are feeling a little bit iffy and what have you. And if you come out and issue a statement or say something, have a team meeting or whatever, it nips it in the bud.
Yeah.
If you don't and you leave it, however, you know, how many weeks is it now since we got relegated? It is so much speculation, so much gossip, and that's the worst thing. This week, though, it was interesting to see that Top's got a new position at King Power, and I had a few fans on my Facebook page saying, "What's that got to do with the club?" I'm like, really? But is that kind of because the guy that's come in, I believe, used to run the airport authority for all Thailand airports. Yeah. Is that Top kind of saying, look, I need help? And is that something he maybe needs to do at Leicester? Or will that give him more time to get more involved, hands-on at Leicester?
Maybe. Obviously, he was kind of, obviously thrust into being CEO of King Power because of his poor father Vichai's tragedy. But listen, he's a very wealthy, youngish man. And again, maybe it's a sensible business move from him to put somebody in place who is a CEO. There is a slight more to that story because the guy who's come in, I believe, who is now the CEO, was the airport CEO. And King Power and the airport are having a bit of a debate and falling out. But it sounds like it's all a bit of gamesmanship to get a better deal, maybe, allegedly, who knows. But I think from what I'm told, Chris, at Leicester, Top very much allows the board and the people in place to run Leicester City. I believe he comes and has a cursory, glance around it. But sometimes I don't want to liken it to King Charles or Prince William walking around a school. You wouldn't claim that they understand really what's going on at the school in that detail, because they fly in, they have a look round, everybody tells them it's amazing, and they leave again. So I'm not sure with Top if there's any bearing in that. Maybe it's from a business point of view, maybe it's sensible.
Yes.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I've never quite felt if Leicester City is Top's number one sporting priority. I believe his horses and polo perhaps rank at least.
Although he was the one, I believe, that actually wanted to buy a football club.
I've heard that story both ways. I've heard it was Vichai, but I don't know. They're both put amazing amount of work into Leicester City, so I'm not calling either of them for a minute. They've been the best owners we've ever had by a long way. So I only thank them for what they've done.
Oh yeah, I mean, as much as, and I think we're allowed to criticise because we're like shareholders. We buy tickets and season tickets. Gives us
it's our club, Chris. It's our club.
Exactly, yeah. So we've got every right to say, Top, you crap at the moment. I don't want him to go. Look at Sheffield Wednesday. Managerial sold that, and look where they are now. And we did get lucky. Somebody just said there. John said, "I don't care who comes in, just want to see attacking, winning football." And with that, say going back to the future, when you go back, and I'm not going to say we're going to win the Premier League again or anything ridiculous like that, but how fast we move through the field when we got the ball and counter-attacked, we'd move. And I don't care. I mean, Jamie Vardy, probably not the best. Well, it's not the best season he's ever had, let's be honest with you, but he's gone now. But, as much as we criticised him, he was hardly ever got the ball in the box, did he?
Yeah. Obviously that counter-attacking football was exciting. We all loved it when we won the Premier League. But probably just as much, Chris, I really enjoyed the season before when it was the greatest escape and the football wasn't necessarily there. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of the Pep-style possession-based football, mostly because as a fan who still luckily gets to go into the grounds and watch it, I still crave that Filbert Street passion that I had when I was 18, 19, 20. I love the atmosphere and I love the fact that something's happening. And in the old days, used to be scraining your neck, jumping up, trying to see what it was. It literally made you leap around and enjoy it. And we've had times where we haven't had that, of course, in the 90s and 80s times. But that's as a fan, I want to go and get out, be pulled out my seat because I'm excited about what's going on. And again, under Rude and even under Enzo, but certainly under Rude, there was times where the ball would come down the wing. I sit in the family stand. The ball would come down the wing, and you'd see somebody like maybe McAteer get it and be 25 yards from goal on the wing, and I'm like, what's he going to do? What's he going to do? But I got used to the fact he was going to do nothing apart from control it and look backwards and go back to Wout, Fies and Vestergaard to pass it around again. And you could literally drift off because the ball never ended up in the box. The winger never tried to take anybody on. Jamie Vardy never got the ball anywhere near he should have done. You got the greatest striker we've ever had, never given a ball in the danger zone.
Yeah,
I'm kind of personally done with possession-based pep football as a fan who has to pay money to go and watch it. Because it's just dull.
Yeah. Again, I'm going to be a little bit controversial here, which is not like me at all. But I would not mind if we got a transfer embargo. Now, as far as I understand it, I could be wrong here. Transfer embargo allows you to sell players, but not bring them in. So, and if we get a transfer embargo, even a management plan, I mean, if we've got a management plan or business plan, whatever they want to call it, and we've actually get people better than John Rudkin and Susan Wheeler to run the club, might not be a bad thing. But I'm very much, I did a show on Tuesday, and you remember Alan Hansen, you don't win anything with youth.
Yes.
Now, we've got this amazing training facility, 100 million odd pounds. We've heard all about it, the swimming pools, 5-star hotel rooms, etc. We are now, and it's like when you plant an oak tree, the next year, it's not going to suddenly grow up and be, it's going to take a few years for it to get established and grow. And I think that's what's happened with with Seagrave. But now we're starting to see those young players through. When I looked at that and I put a team together, you've got Fatawu. All right, all these haven't come through the academy, but the youngsters we've got, Fatawu, Monga, Alves, you got Nelson in defence, Thomas, Stolarczyk, and then you've got the likes of Aluko, Golding, Baybrook, McAteer, Mavididi, Evans. Without even some experienced players, that's a damn good team, isn't it?
There is. I mean, Maverdeen is about 28, 29, Chris, but
well,
the rest
hey,
I'll give you that.
comparing to me.
Yeah, I get it. Listen, there is perhaps finally, because it has been a bit the last couple of years, especially last year when we were like, didn't buy anybody in January. It was kind of like, well, let's blood some of the younger academy players. Braybrook and Alves, they've been around the scene for a couple of years.
Yeah.
So maybe back in the Championship, this will be their time to come in. Nelson apparently did well last year. It was he was on loan at Oxford, wasn't he? And
Yeah, very well.
They all wanted to buy him, so I think he will be part of the team. Monger and Evans. I mean, you, Chris, you are like me, old enough to remember when Buchanan and Lineker burst onto the scene. God. They were 16 or 17. Yeah. And again, both Buchanan sort of dropped off in the end, but Lineker, as we all know, went on to be world class. But they were, I think, 16, 17, 18 when they burst in. And again, as the saying goes, if you're good enough, you're old enough. So maybe with Monger and Evans, they will be brilliant next year in the Championship. I saw a couple of flashes from Monger in the Premier League, but I'm like, I know a lot of Leicester fans might not like me saying it. I never quite saw enough from Monger where I go, yeah, this guy is genuinely going to rip the Championship up. I think he will, and I hope he does. And again, definitely didn't see much from Evans. But you got to be slightly careful putting a lot of pressure on the youngsters. But if they're good enough, they're old enough. So yeah, I'm with you. I'd rather see people like Monger, Evans, McAteer, people again care about this than the people on 80, 90 grand a week who don't even turn up for match day squads because they don't want to come to a training facility that's first class for one night a week to stay over. Those sorts of players for me can just go.
Wonder who you're talking about.
I don't know who I'm talking about, but I just think if you're asked to do that sort of stuff for work, you kind of do it.
Yeah,
I would.
Yeah. I see where you're coming from. Yeah, I just think that, and again, this is why I don't want Rude in the position, because once you are confirmed as being relegated, what have we got to play for? Pride, right? So you've got those, 6 or 7 games after we got relegated, when you've got going back to the future, like you say, going back to the youngsters. I always say, if we'd had Wayne Rooney, he wouldn't have broke through into the first team yet. You know what I mean? He just give us
Well, Luke Thomas and Dewsbury Hall didn't really get through until they're 24s. They're not young at 24 anymore.
No, we call them youngsters, like you said.
Well, Alves is 22, 23, isn't he? He's not young.
Yeah. I know. And I was saying that that's the time when we should have blooded them, because you can say to them, go out, enjoy your football, show the crowd and show us what you've got. If you lose, it doesn't matter. If you lose 4 or 5-0, we're losing 4 or 5-0 anyway. Just go out there and enjoy yourselves, no pressure. But I felt he gave us lip service, and it's difficult to say, look, we've all heard about Monger, we've known Monger, he showed a couple, like you say, just a couple of glimpses. But what can you show in 10 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, Monger was given a little bit more as it grew through, but still not a massive. But there was times Jake Evans came on for 3 minutes at the end, and you kind of go, well, you've got an appearance on your Wikipedia really with that. You've not been given any time, and I think the last 5 or 6 games personally, I thought were a bit of a missed opportunity. Although you could argue getting that win against Southampton and Ipswich, it builds us up a little bit more to say, look, we are still better than you next year when we play you in the Championship. So you could argue it both ways, but I'd have liked to see a lot more of the youngsters in there.
Yeah. I mean, the squad that I put out here, and look, this is just for me, I've got Stolarczyk in goal. I've got a back three of Thomas, who I think everybody had written off when he went to Sheffield United and Middlesbrough, and I thought he was one of our better players last season. Nelson, and do you remember Coley? Scored a goal, never saw him again. I've actually got Justin in the squad, but I've got him on the left. But apparently we go and buy right back and then carry on playing the left back at right back. I've put Koulibaly on the right. I've got a middle three, and I know you're not going to like this, but I've got Monger, Winks, and Alves. And because again, Winks when we were in the Championship, he was probably our player of the season. I've actually got Ayew in there, because
Yes.
I think
I
if
think Elliot will be our striker, Chris, next year.
yeah, I think if he's played in the centre, get the ball to him, he'll hold it up for the youngsters to run on, and or get us a free kick, and then a kind of play where you want to play, just cause the defence a lot of trouble. Fatawu, and I've just got him to literally, just go where you need to. Bit like a Gaza, if you want to go to the left, go to the. Just keep the defence busy, and without buying anybody, I wouldn't mind seeing that squad.
Well, yeah, and again, you've got Mavadidi to be around there as well at the top. I mean, I like what you're saying, Chris, with a lot of it, but that's not Pep possession football when you're saying, hey, go and be creative, because that's exactly what people like Pep and Enzo don't want. They don't want people to do anything that isn't exactly what they've told them to do in their instruction manual. So I'd love to see Fatawu and Mavadidi running around, and I think, I thought I did all right last season. He did what I thought he was going to do, not be outstanding, but be a squad player, chip in with a few goals, a few assists. And I think in the Championship, that drop down, you'll probably see that that's his quality. Coming back to your Harry Winks thing, I understand with you. I want to get promoted next year. I don't think anybody will come and buy Harry Winks, because I don't think anybody will want to pay 10 million and give him 90 grand a week. But in the Championship, again, if he's anything like he was last year, he's too good for the Championship, so he should be able to be our quarterback and pull the strings in the middle of the park. So yes, if you've got a good spine, and it could be Hermansen if we don't sell him, it could be Stolicic, and then if you go through a Coley, I liked a Coley, but again, if Cody was still around, which he probably will be, because again nobody will come and buy him on that money, Cody could be your captain, your leader from the back, and start to guide these young lads around. It definitely, Chris, if that team you said could be in the top 6 of the Championship, if not higher.
And the reason that I've gone and I've not put El Canoes in and I've not put Hermansen in, I've not included players that I think will leave us, or I hope will leave us.
What, El Canoes? You want El Canoes to go, Chris?
No, I don't want him to go. No. I don't
think he'll go.
But I think he could be poached. He's along with Hermansen, they are our two most sellable assets, aren't they?
Hermansen, yes. I think El Canoes, I think, apart from the fact that we seem to apparently have a 22 million release clause when we only bought him for 20, so maybe somebody else will go, well, I saw enough potential in the Premier League with Leicester. But I don't think he's quite, for me, showed enough in the Premier League. He gave the ball away so much, Chris. I don't know if you could, I know you're watching it like on TV or whatever, but in the ground, yes, I love his tricks. Yes, I love his passes. And yes, I love his passion. But there's many games he was give the ball away almost every time at the end and not produce anything with it. So he has got a lot to learn.
He has, but a club might just take the gamble on him, knowing the situation. We're relegated. We need money. That's the thing. And I have to say, my defence is based on the ABF principle. That is basically anyone but Faze.
He'll be gone, surely.
Please God! Can I just say, I don't know if you've seen me with my Faze wig on.
No, you should put it on, Chris.
Oh, I have done many a time. Although I said that I've got no hair, so I might be able to. But he's my James Bond cat, But no, I mean, like I say, I'm going to say it now. Actually, I am worried next season. I understand. Look, again, looking at we've got this PSR hanging over us. I'm getting to the opinion now where to say to Leicester, whatever it is, just take it and get it out the way and get it over with.
Yeah, I think we probably are at the point now where if we are going to get the punishment, you've just got to take it. I'd like to hope again. This is where I'm no fan of John Woodkin particularly at all. Or I don't know too much about Susan Whelan, but I think you have to look at it as a club. My honest take on it is I have to give them some successes. They did sign Fatawu, they have signed El Canoes, so let's give them some credit where it's due. Yeah. But obviously have to look at the negatives. But if we have failed to adhere to the rules that are the league, I think that's when you can be honest and go, look, these guys, they have mismanaged the club because they can't stick to the rules. So they know the rules. It's like, HMRC came and said you've got to pay your VAT or your tax, you've got to do it. And if you get fined or whatever, so I kind of think if we haven't stuck with it, then somebody does need to be moved on and said you couldn't stick to the rules. It's one thing missing Adrian Silva's signing by 14 seconds and saying, oh, well, bit of admin error there. Fax didn't work or whatever nonsense they said, but not sticking within PSR rules. I think that's what
do you not think
do.
But we were kind of, with the PSR, we hadn't obviously envisaged getting relegated, had we? That is the big. But you should always have contingency plans as a business, shouldn't you?
Yeah, I hope in my business I don't lose one of my biggest clients tomorrow, but the phone could go and they could say, well, that contract we got with you, Phil, we're pulling out. And I don't want that, but I have to plan and think if that happens, I have got exactly like you said, I've got a contingency plan. I've got a plan B. Don't want to activate it, but I've spent some time thinking about it. And if you enter into a football league season, that the best that can happen is you win it, and that's a 1 in 5,000 chance.
Yes.
But the chance of getting relegated, if the bookies would have said it, there was a chance that year we got relegated, it would be there. So nobody plans for it, but you got to have that contingency is the right word.
Yes, yeah. But Phil, thank you very much for coming on. I'm going to leave you with this, and I know it's early yet, but the fixtures are out next Thursday, 12:00. I actually got it right last time we were in the Championship. I said Coventry, and we did get Coventry. Would you like to open up with Coventry again?
No, because I Coventry will be an enjoyable game next year, home and away. And I whoever's in charge, whoever is the manager, I think the way you set off in a season is critical. And I just think if we could have a home game and a nice home win, and you go, right, it's against somebody who, not really expecting a lot. I don't want a tasty fixture to get us going. I don't want don't give us Wrexham away. God, the TV will probably go for it, won't they? Let's have Wrexham against Leicester at Wrexham.
Friday night.
Because I don't want us to be. I'd love us to have a nice first easy 3 points, and nothing will be easy, but 3 points. Follow it up by another one, Chris. So I'm kind of like, let's build up. Let's build up to some of the bigger, more tough. And Coventry will be a tough one as well next year. They're hardened top 6, top 8 type of Championship side now. They'll fancy it against us.
Yeah, they will. They will. Had a good run under Frank Lampard. And, of course, the next big date, which everybody should put in the diaries, is the 1st of July, because that's when the new year starts for PSR. And that is probably when we are going to see a lot happen.
I am told, Chris, and take this with a pinch of salt, but I am told by a few sources that July the 1st, Reid will get sacked and Sean Dyche will be manager.
Sean Dyche. Oh, well.
That's what I'm told.
Again, I understand why. I understand why, because if it is the new financial year, we've got to pay Rood off. Yeah, I can see that. Sean Dyche is interesting. We'll wait and see on that. Very last thing, and I know I've said that 3 times now, but very last thing. You were saying about John Rudkin, and it seems to be everybody, look, if the toilets break, and I think I said this on your show, if the toilets break in the away end, it's John Rudkin's fault. But there's got to be some credit. He's got, Monga signed up, Stolarczyk, is it on an extension? Evans, don't know if he has done it, but it's on the cards to possibly complete. Those youngsters that we wanted to keep, it looks like we've done it.
I've always said he is the pantomime villain. He's the guy in a way that everybody likes to boo. I'll have to give him some credit as being part of the team. The same with Susan Whelan and Topham Vichai, that delivered the best 10 years on the pitch in all our lives. So for me, that is credit in the bank. I definitely think they've got lots of things wrong, and more so over the recent years. But signing Mongerin is a good sign, because there was a lot of people sniffing around him. Like, say, Evans is in there. Fatwa, like 18 months ago, even Mavadi. There has been some decent signings. El Canoes, people, there's some good. There's been some stinkers, because you look at how much we paid for some of them, wages for the big earners, which hasn't worked out. But who knows?
Who knows? Who knows? We wouldn't swap the last 10 years for anything, would we?
No.
You know,
I wouldn't. And that's the thing, I wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't. If you offered me to do all that again, but at the end you're going to get relegated and maybe points docked, I'd say give it to me now. You know, I really would. And as Thomas said there, thanks, Chris, and thanks, Phil, for coming on and sharing your perspective. Leicester Fan TV, obviously everybody on here must be following you. If you're not, why not? Tell us what you got coming up. Anything exciting coming up?
Well, we're waiting for some news, really, Chris, at the moment. We're literally there waiting for something to happen. I think, like you just said, I think July 1st is going to be the big thing. I'm waiting for a new shirt to be launched. We're waiting for a new player. It's all going to suddenly happen. Again, it's the usual Leicester City way. Again, they start taking your money off you for your season ticket, like a month ago, but no promise of nothing. So, we always like to go with whatever's happening, just like you do, Chris. So watch this space and we'll see what happens. We love the roller coaster.
On the 1st of July, we'll all be there on air at the same time, doing our shows, Yeah. But thanks so much for coming on, mate. Obviously, if you need me, I'm available to come on yours, and we'll have to have you back on again during the season.
Chris, we've had a Rudis Sacked show scheduled with graphics and everything for the last 5 weeks. I'm like, as soon as it happens, press live. But who knows? We'll get you on.
Joke. I've actually got a Rudy Sacked graphic ready to go on Facebook and X and all that.
You've got to be ready. But that's called having a contingency, isn't it, Chris? That's having a plan B.
Good
be ready.
Point. Plan B? What's one of those?
Yeah, well, we haven't had one of them either on the pitch for a while.
We haven't.
That's another story.
Mate, thanks a lot for coming on. Really do appreciate it. All the best, mate. And we'll speak again very, very soon.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Right. Oops, that's the wrong one. There we go. Thanks to Phil for coming on. Really do appreciate it. Do get over if you haven't subscribed to Leicester Fan TV, which of course you will have done. You must have done. And I'd say, if not, why not? But thanks very much. I'll be back tomorrow night at 8 o'clock with the news show. Not that there's a lot of news, but we'll try and drag up some rumours from some newspaper in Ghana that you've never heard of so that we can talk about it. Yes, it's that bad at the moment. 8 o'clock tomorrow. Thanks, Phil. Thanks to everybody that's been listening. Thank you via your podcast platform. Thank you for that. And thank you, everybody that's been in the chat as well. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Good night.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You better like them too, or I'll be back.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.